Hey, and thanks for joining us. This is episode 6 of Riding in the Weeds, where Ginny and I are going to dig into how we manage expansion and contraction. Last week, we were talking about what expansion and contraction is. And this week, we're just going to dig a little deeper and get into the realities of what life can look like on an everyday. If you're someone that really struggles with trying to get it right, this is the episode for you. This is Jenny and Tash, and we're here to talk about how we, through our experiences of riding bikes, working with people, working with horses, and hanging out with animals in general, have really taught us ways to look at life and get ourselves back out of the weeds when we find ourselves in them. Hey, Jenny, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Tosh?
I'm doing great, thank you. Wow, what a journey to get here today.
No kidding. So last week we talked a lot about the expansion and contraction that happens naturally when you're working on growing. And it's kind of a reality that I think a lot of people miss. They don't recognize that pattern. And when you don't recognize that something is a pattern, that certainly makes it a lot harder to approach it with awareness. So this week, we're going to dive all into how to manage mostly the contraction phases, because that's where their true growth happens. But when we end up numbing out or avoiding the discomfort of the contraction, we don't get the benefit. So that's kind of what's on tap for this week, I think. So let's dive in.
Awesome. Yeah, contraction, numbing out, getting uncomfortable. Isn't it fascinating that the human experience it's like we are required to get uncomfortable in order to move forward. If we don't get uncomfortable, there is absolutely no way we can ever expand. However, naturally as human beings, it's like the absolute last thing we want to do.
That is so true. And I think our culture and society likes to resist that discomfort and make it wrong. But if you look at anything in nature, there's always some contraction and some struggle. Like, what makes us think that a blooming flower is easy? Why do we think that going through those experiences in nature is comfortable anyway? Like, I think we have this preconceived notion that things should be easy, and that's just not true.
It's so true. I have a coach that used to give this analogy about butterflies, and it was all about the caterpillar and how, the caterpillars are sitting out on the branch and they're talking to each other and they're like, no, I'm not going into that thing. Nobody comes out of that alive. Like, Joe went in and I never saw Joe again. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. And it used to just make me laugh, because isn't that just the truth, right? Like, we don't know. And because the caterpillar doesn't know it's going to become a butterfly. And it's true, Joe the caterpillar did not come out of the cocoon, but Joe the butterfly did. And it's like this strange creature emerged. I think it ate Joe. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And, I think as a society, that's really how we identify with change. That's how we identify with moving through different phases in our lives. And, the other thing I was thinking recently is like 1, 2, miss a few, 99, 100. And when we're going through something, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 100. And every single step that you took on the journey to losing weight, to doing whatever it is, getting your success, getting a podcast started, right? Like, this might seem easy, but I tell you guys, if you had any idea, the things that we are managing on a weekly basis to get this conversation to happen with you, like, we're going to do an episode where we just talk about what's going on right now, especially behind me right now.
Oh, yeah. I love your caterpillar analogy, because what's fascinating is there's been a lot of research about the whole process of caterpillars turning into butterflies, and the caterpillar completely dissolves, like, into goo. Like, there is no part of the caterpillar that's left. and yet a butterfly emerges. And I think that is very true of most of the types of expansion contraction cycles that we see. Is there's that goo phase that feels horrible. Like, I can't imagine it's comfortable for the caterpillar, but just like everything in nature, they're compelled to do it. They can't not do it, because that would be like to deny their growth. A couple of years ago, we had a brood of 17-year cicadas. So every 17 years, these cicadas hatch and emerge, and they live in the ground for 16 years in the dirt, and then when they emerge, they shed their shells and actually become these bugs that can fly. And again, like, that process cannot be comfortable. And yet, for some reason, as humans, we think that growth process should be comfortable. And so we make ourselves wrong for it, which leads to all sorts of coping mechanisms that don't really benefit our growth. They aren't catalysts for continuing the growth. And that's really what we wanted to talk about today, is how you learn to get comfortable when you're uncomfortable, and to recognize when the action that you're taking in that contraction phase might not be the most helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say the goo. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was talking about how it's fascinating how we don't actually see the change. So that caterpillar, when it comes out as a butterfly, does it know it's now a butterfly, or does it still think that it's a caterpillar, and it actually needs its caterpillar friends to be like, yeah, no, not a caterpillar anymore, bud. Like, you have expanded beyond where you were before. And we can't always see that expansion, which is what makes this contraction so hard, because it's like we were talking about in the last episode. As you level up, everything changes, and you actually feel like you're right back at square one again, which is what leads us into this whole numbing. So now we feel poopy because we are back at square one. And it's so easy to let those squirrel thoughts come in, like, I'm failing, I'm not good enough, how am I back here again? I should be better at this. I should have done this better, but I'm not. And it's often because we can't see it. And so then where it gets uncomfortable, and the first thing we do is we reach for that glass of wine. We reach for the phone and we start scrolling. We start binging on Netflix. We go into these so-called bad behaviors that I actually don't think it's bad versus good. It's the energy in which we're doing them in that is actually what is either, pulling us out of discomfort and into a numbing state, or it could actually be a celebration. And it's the energy in which we approach it with, and the mindfulness versus the actual action itself.
Yeah, none of those activities are inherently bad on their own. I mean, scrolling social media can be useful and informative, and in certain quantities, it's fine. That's how we stay connected. That's how we relate to each other now. But in the wrong timing, and in a situation where you're using it as an avoidance mechanism to avoid feeling discomfort around some kind of expansion, then yeah, it's probably not the best choice. And it really boils down to making that decision of choosing what you're doing in the moment, and understanding that the feelings of discomfort aren't wrong. They're normal and they're necessary in order to recognize where you are and where you've been. When you are working on body balance and on retraining your body, especially in things like biking, this is huge in horse riding. When you change your balance, even if it is a change towards the positive, it feels negative. Like, your whole body will be screaming, this is wrong. But yet, if you use external signals and external feedback, like looking in a mirror or checking your balance, the way your legs look in the saddle, you can see that visually it's balanced. And yet your body will be screaming, telling you it's wrong. And so if we numb out in that moment, we miss the window of helping teach our body that, nope, this is really where you want to be. This is how you don't fall off. This is how you actually really stay on, because the old way of doing things was actually not as good as it could have been. And so it's important to recognize that sometimes you just have to sit through that discomfort. And that is the answer, is to be uncomfortable until it begins to not feel so uncomfortable, which happens. It comes eventually. And I'm sure that's the way it is for the butterfly, the former caterpillar, that eventually, okay, this feels okay now. Like, oh, hey, check it out. I can fly. I couldn't do that before.
Oh, absolutely. And just to bring that back to biking as well, that's one of the things that I really teach in my biking is our brain thinks that that bike is our stability. That brain thinks that if I hold on to this bicycle with my knees, then this is what's keeping me upright. This is what's keeping me balanced. And in fact, as soon as we realize that, no, like if we can show the brain, and oftentimes I will get somebody to be on their bike, I'm holding on to the front handlebars, they've got their brakes, I've got the stability for them. And then I show them the difference between them being rigid and holding onto that bike really tightly. And I wobble them around and they go, whoa. And then I get them to bring themselves into the position that I'm teaching them. And instantly their brain's like, oh, this is so much better. I got it. Never doing that again. And it is so quick. And I tell people, it's like, we've got to get the brain to go first, because then the brain is the one suggesting, let's do this, then the body will follow. But when we're asking the brain to do something that it isn't ready for yet, it's not going to do it. Back to me being down here in Mexico, there were many, many steps. It was not 1, 2, miss a few, 99, 100. I know every step I went through to get here. But if you look at it from the outside, I decided to go to Mexico. I packed my stuff up into a camper and boom, here I am, right? But there were multiple times when I was wanting to down a bottle of wine because the stress and just my central nervous system was out of control and vibrating because of the enormity that I've undertaken. It's exactly this. It's learning how to manage it without going into the numbing. And even as much as like stepping into that feeling, and as soon as you're like, oh, you know what, I'd really like a glass of wine right now. Instead of having that glass of wine, getting curious. Well, why? Why do I need a glass of wine? What am I trying to avoid? What is the feeling here that I am wanting to get away from? Going into that space, allowing yourself to let it go, and then go and have that glass of wine once you've processed it. Again, it's not that the activities are inherently wrong. There is nothing wrong with sitting down and binge watching your favorite episode or a show on Netflix on a Sunday afternoon because it's raining and that's just what you want to do. But if you're doing it to avoid doing something that makes you uncomfortable, that's where we've got to stop and take a step back and say, okay, can I manage these feelings first? And then I'll go and do whatever it is that I enjoy doing. But when we bring them together and we confuse those things, they become crutches instead of things that we enjoy, I guess.
Yeah. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head, that it's about teaching the nervous system to handle whatever the input is in the moment. And again, this is where not making it wrong is important, because many times when our nervous system gets triggered for any reason, you want to recoil away from that. And the problem is, again, that doesn't allow your nervous system to grow and expand. So whether it's developing the balance on the bike or dealing with life issues and managing challenges and changes within your life, your nervous system has to be able to cope with that. And it all really is the same. It doesn't matter whether it is a balance issue or whether it's an emotional issue, your nervous system's going to react the same way.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, that's where those tools of, number one, recognizing that that's what's going on. And then number two, finding a way to work through that discomfort without reaching for the things that only numb it. Because here's the reality, only numbing is going to keep you repeating that step until your nervous system gains that learning. That's what's funny. Like you never get to go 1, 2, skip a few, 99, 100. But the other thing is you never get to go consecutively from 1 to 100 either. And the reality is it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, like it's an up and down constantly. So regulating your nervous system from day to day and moment to moment through those expansive moments when you're gaining a lot, and then the contraction where you need to integrate that, is what's key. Is it's just recognizing, oh, my nervous system's a little triggered right now. I need to sit down and let this settle and allow my nervous system to come to the recognition that this is okay. And sometimes that takes action. So that's something I've been working on with the horses I've been riding lately, is when they start to find balance, one of the first things they do is stop, because they don't know how to have that balance control in motion. And so they stop. They're like, whoa, we can't move like that. We can't do that. And what you have to do is know how to support them through that moment and go, no, keep trying something, because it's only through the movement that you will find the increased level of stability in motion. So sometimes the activity needs to be some kind of movement to allow your nervous system to adapt. Sometimes it needs to be quiet, but it's just exploring and learning and not making anything wrong.
It's so good. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and it was just fascinating to really kind of dig into exactly that. Like, how can we be in the moment to moment? How can we recognize that we're having that contraction and stepping back and going, right, this is it. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going. And so my friend, I was telling her, I've started a new project with this wellness company that I'm working with. I was saying, I struggle. Like, I feel like I just don't align. And I feel like it kind of looks at me and goes, yeah, that's what Tash is doing. But maybe I don't need that, or it's not what I'm looking for. And she says to me, Tash, you realize that the two things you're talking about are literally the hardest things in the world to get people on board with. Like, I'm talking about a dream weaving soul sister circle and MLM marketing company. Like, these are not normal things. She's like, why don't you make it easier on yourself? And I said to her, I was like, actually, you'll be very proud of me, because that's exactly what I did. I was in a space of being like, this isn't working. And I turned around yesterday and I created a bike clinic for some local girls here down in Baja. And you know what happened? I filled it in 5 minutes. And it was exactly that. It was okay, you know what? I need a win. And so let's turn around and let's do something that I know is an easy win for me. And then really celebrating that and going, okay, right. How did that work? Let's come back and let's use that win to propel us forward in those things that are not as easy, right? I find it exceptionally easy to be a bike coach, but I want to be more than a bike coach. I want to expand into more. And as you say, it's like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 5. And, when you're coming back into the 2 and you start to feel defeated and you want to reach for that bottle of wine, or you want to reach for your phone again, okay, can I do something else that is going to shift this energy, something that I know I can instantly get a feel-good feeling from, or just pouring yourself a cup of tea and actually sitting with that feeling until it passes. And once it's passed, then you can get back up and keep going. But when we numb, the feeling doesn't pass. Instead, it comes back again twofold. And then the next time it comes back threefold. And every time it becomes a little harder to get through, and we end up staying stuck because all we're doing is avoiding that discomfort. And if we're not uncomfortable, we can't expand.
Yeah, that was a huge, as some of my friends and I used to say, blinding flash of the obvious, a BFO moment for me, that just because you're feeling something doesn't mean you have to respond. So just because we're experiencing an emotion doesn't mean we actually need to take action. Sometimes it's important, obviously, but I think all too often, particularly when we're in that feeling of contraction where our body is trying to recalibrate, we think we need to do something. And what we really just need to do is just sit on our butt for a minute and give our body a hot second to actually recalibrate. And then things will begin to feel normal again, on the other side of the contraction after the expansion. That's the thing working with the horses and working with body balance, is that if you don't stay in that new level of balance long enough, your body won't ever figure out that that's actually beneficial, and it won't ever relax into that new posture or that new musculature balance and coordination to be able to keep using it. And so you got to get uncomfortable to make progress. That's what it boils down to. And if you're not
100%.
aware of it, then you're only going to keep reaching for the numbing or other coping mechanisms that don't serve the growth.
Yeah. And, it's funny because like meditation is this newfangled thing that we're all doing these days. And really, meditation is just taking a step back and, as you say, sitting your butt down, taking a really deep breath and allowing yourself to just be. Let everything wash over you. Your very simple meditation is to just sit there and watch the thoughts go by.
Yeah.
Not react to them. This is somewhere where I have so much room for expansion, just letting myself be with it and not reacting, because I can be so reactive. And especially if I've gone through a big expansion space and I'm in the contraction and all I want to do is drink a glass of wine, if I can just be with the why. I haven't been drinking wine because I'm on my dry January, and so I'm like reaching for the chocolate. I'm reaching for my phone. I haven't watched TV in months, and suddenly we're back in the Apple TV. There's some really good shows that have come out since I've been off too. It's mindfulness. Again, it's being like, and I love my husband for this because he won't watch more than one show in a row. So it's impossible to binge watch with him. But when he's not around and I'm uncomfortable, it's one of my go-tos. I'll go to all of them. I'm a numbing queen when I really want to be. But I'm also very, very aware of the mindfulness and the ability to actually expand on that. And that's hugely beneficial to us as human beings.
And I think that's a good point. Again, it's the willingness to recognize that there will be discomfort with expansion, that it's inevitable. There's no way around it. I don't know if you're familiar with the 4 levels of learning, but there's kind of 4 stages to learning something. And the first stage is unconscious incompetence. So you don't know what you don't know. And then after that comes conscious incompetence, where you recognize that there is something that you don't know. The next level is conscious competence. So now you know that you've learned something. And the final stage is unconscious competence, where it becomes so normal to you that you don't even remember that it was something that you had to learn. And the middle 2 levels of that are the hardest. Recognizing that you have a hole in your learning or your foundation or your skills is difficult, because suddenly you're confronted with the fact that you're going to have to change what you're doing. And then the next level that's the hardest after that is suddenly you have skills, but you have to think about every single little step. It's like learning to drive a car. Like the first time you ever get behind the wheel, especially the older you are, the harder it becomes, because now you have to manage the gas and the brake. If it's a stick shift, Lord help you, because now there's like 3 other things you have to manage. You got to look around, you got to watch your mirrors, you got to watch your speed, you got to watch all the signs, you got to watch other people on the road. And when you're beginning to learn to drive, that's just like so much sensory input. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And that's the way pretty much learning any new skill is. It's very easy to get overwhelmed in the beginning because it's just sensory overload for your nervous system. But again, that's normal. And that discomfort and the contraction that comes with that level of nervous system stimulus, it's just part of life. So I think that really this boils down to a couple steps. Number 1, you got to recognize that you're going to encounter that contraction feeling when your nervous system sort of hits a wall. And then once you know that it's happening, it becomes a question of what is the best course of action. Do I need to take a physical break? Do I need to step away from what I'm doing? Do I need to maybe move or get up and move my body some way? If you're doing a bunch of learning on the computer, should you get up and go take a walk? Should you meditate for a little bit? should you maybe do some breathing exercises? Because my guess is you probably weren't breathing effectively through all of that anyway, right? It's like, come on now. That's like the first nervous system reaction is quit breathing, which is terrible. That in and of itself triggers your nervous system. So, hey, by the way, you should probably take a deep breath right now, and then
Right.
after that, choose your next action intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say breathing. So when my husband was heading towards the Olympics, one of the experts that they had talked to them was talking about the breath exactly. And he actually got tattooed, "Are you breathing in and out?" on his forearm. Because what they say is in that moment of contraction, if you ask yourself, "Are you breathing in and out?" there is only one thing that your body can do. Take a really big, deep breath in. It is
Yeah.
a subconscious neurological reaction that you cannot avoid. And it will happen as soon as you ask that question. So, if in that space that Jenny was just talking about, step two, when you find yourself there, you find yourself holding your breath. If you ask yourself, "Hey, are you breathing in and out?" it will instantly put you right here, right where you are. And that's just pure science as to how our body works. Can you imagine that if every time you went, "Ugh," you were able to just go, "Am I breathing in and out?" Nope. I
Yeah.
should do that. I actually suffered from migraines for a lot of my life. They say the way that you come out of the womb is how you manage these moments in your life, how you manage the contraction. And when I came out, I stopped breathing. There was nothing wrong with me. There was no reason for me to stop breathing. I was just not ready. And I was 2 weeks late, borderline 3. And they were like, "Yeah, this room's not available anymore. You got to get out." And they kicked me out. And I came out and I'm like, "Nope, not doing it. I'm going to hold my breath." And I'm going back in there. And so they threw me in an incubator. I was there for a week. Like that's a whole other story. But what I found is when I started to look at when I got migraines and why I got migraines, that was my instinctive reaction. I hate shopping malls. And I would walk into a shopping mall and I would instantly stop breathing. And then I would get a migraine because that's why my migraines come about, is because I'm not giving enough oxygen. Now I just get them, you know, on a hormonal thing. I don't get them in these situations anymore because I'm aware that where they come from. And the same thing, if you pop out of that womb and you're instantly crying, well, that's generally when you hit that contraction, what probably happens is you burst into tears. There's like 6 different ways I think that we can come out, and that then dictates how you respond to that contraction. I thought that was
That's
fascinating.
funny. I came in a hurry. So, and I guess that's probably true because I tend to just try and hurry up and avoid whatever is uncomfortable. I just want to just get through it, like let's just not deal with that. But it's funny because I think we could pretty safely say breathing is the answer to almost everything. So we don't need to do any more podcasts. This is it. You have the magic answer. That's all you need to know. So many things in our lives could be solved if we just paused and took a breath.
Just pause and take a breath, think about what we need to do next. And as you said, step 3 is setting the intention and seeing where the next steps are and following that path. It's the same as my goddess experience, right? Step 1, celebrate all of the things, like whatever situation you're in, stop and celebrate all of the things you've actually done well in that situation. If you're having struggle in a relationship, sit down and think about all the amazing relationships that you have, right? And then the second one is to be like, well, what do I want this to look like? Going into that future vision, breathing into how you want it to feel. And then again, that third step, exactly as you say, is setting in the intentions as to how you're going to get from where you're feeling right now into where you're feeling in the next moment. And lately for me, that's been really important, moment by moment, my moment, so that I'm not saying, "Oh, yesterday was a really bad day." No, yesterday had some good moments, and yesterday had some really challenging moments, and then it had some good moments, and then it had some challenging moments, and I rode the roller coaster. But when it went downhill first thing, I was like, "Where are my tools? How do I
Yeah.
numb? Can I get out of this situation? Because I don't like it." And I don't have anything to numb right now. I'm trying to avoid all of them. And so I just consciously went and did some yoga. and came back. And as I say, it didn't stop the roller coaster, but it really set me up really well for the rest of my day to just be managing the things. So these fancy headphones that, if you're noticing my audio is better, I have these earmuffs on. If you're on the video, you can see that I look like I'm an air traffic controller. I was so excited that I got these on Monday. And then, of course, yesterday, whatever day that was, the dog ate them. And I was like, well, I got them for Thursday so that we could do this podcast recording. Now I'm going to have to, and I can't go get another pair because it's a long way away. And long story short, and I called my friend who was in Cabo and I said, can you go to Walmart? And she said, absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to Walmart. I don't have time not doing it. And so I went looking for headphones, couldn't find any. And then she calls me at 5 o'clock. She's like, you know what? I'm going to Walmart, send me the picture, I'll get you the headphones. And I almost felt it was in that moment where I completely let go of the control and went, okay, I'll try something else. I'll try do this instead. And then everything kind of came back to me. And it was when I just let it go. You know what? I hadn't had them the last 5 episodes. We can probably film one more without it. And then here I am. I have these beautiful headphones that magically appeared for me. So, so much beautiful things happen when we feel and then we let go, and there's nothing but being a butterfly on the other side. We get to soar.
Yeah. Just surrendering to that moment of discomfort and allowing it just to be there, that helps it move through. There's research that when you're experiencing it in this intense emotion, they only last 90 seconds. Like a true clear emotion is a 90-second wave through the body. They can measure this through all sorts of physiological measures and brain scans and all different kinds of readings in the body. But again, what happens is we get them stuck when we choose not to feel that and not to let that wave roll through when it happens. So that's where these steps come in handy, and recognizing it's a practice. What's going to happen is you're going to get down the numbing rabbit hole and go, oh shit, here I am again. And then eventually one day you go, you know what? I don't want to fall down that rabbit hole. What other choices do I have? And so you can begin to start catching yourself sooner and sooner each time. And that's where visual reminders are helpful. You don't have to put a tattoo on your arm of the words reminding you to breathe, but probably isn't a bad idea. But you can use sticky notes or phone reminders or alarms, whatever. And if you're feeling an intense emotion, can you just set an alarm for 5 minutes and say, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing for 5 minutes. And then when the bell goes off, go, okay, now what do I choose to do? And see how you feel at the end of that time. But it just takes practice. And that's all there is to it. Breathe and practice. That's it. We've solved the world's problems right there.
Well, I just want to add to that. It's the seeing it first, right? It's the mindfulness to notice that's like, before you do it, stop yourself, then breathe, set those intentions, and just repeat. And it's just learning. It's like learning to walk, right? It's so funny because we forget. Most of us didn't go in one step from crawling to walking. Some of us may have, right? And we forget how hard that was for us.
And there was a lot of falling down in that process. That's what kids do, right? They fall a lot.
And for some reason, we think that once we've learned to walk, we're good, let's run, and we'll never have to do that again. Yeah. But literally our whole entire lives, and it's probably a really good place to end, is our whole entire lives are just a series of learning to walk, and then learning to walk again, and then learning to walk again. And, we're just learning to walk with a nicer stride, a sexier walk, doing it in high heels, doing it on the beach. And every stage of learning to walk, there's a slightly different experience that we're going to have. And if we just keep recognizing that there's going to be some falling down, then we know that we can just get back up, and we don't have to reach for whatever it is. Why are we avoiding the human experience? We are literally only here for a very, very short time. Yeah. And it's fascinating how we've become so good at trying to avoid the whole thing. I'm just going to close my eyes and it'll be over soon.
Yeah.
No.
Let's not do that anymore.
So I hope this has been helpful. As I say, there's some pretty cool backstories. I think maybe next episode will clue you guys in on how this process for Jenny and I'm so impressed with us that we keep showing up.
Put all our tools to the test, right? Oh,
Mostly over here with me managing a Starlink connection and, all the things that are happening around me as I sit in this very crowded campground.
oh my. Well, thank you all for listening. And we would love if you would like, comment, subscribe, leave us messages. We love to hear from you guys. Tosh, you want to share how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Betty Gohard on Instagram. I am Natasha Lockie on Facebook, and soon to be launching our Unlucky Your Life YouTube channel. All of these things, if you're a little curious as to what craziness is going on in my world, it's a great way to find out. I'm a dream coach, a confidence coach, and a mountain bike coach. If I can help you in any areas, I also am a network marketing stepping into the waters kind of person as well. So there's a lot going on. And if there's anything there that I can help support you through, just reach out. I'm here.
Awesome. I am Jenny Brandon of Soul Pet Connections. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com. That is connections with an S. And also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube under the same handle. Love to hear from people if you're having challenges or struggles with your pet relationships, or just want to know what your pet thinks of the world. Let me know, reach out. So you can also find the podcast on ridingintheweeds.com if you're curious to kind of get to our homepage, or on all the other platforms. So we look forward to seeing you guys, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.